Hello everyone and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel. We continue with Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. We're still in chapter 52. This is 52d from the topic, the 7 wonders of the world. And this one is called the fourth wonder, Last Will and Testament. הללו את אדוני כל גויים, שבחו כל האומים, כי גבר עלינו חסדו ואמת אדוני לעולם הללויה. From the day the heavens and the earth were created, no man had ever been sick and died as a result. But rather, a man would be walking on the road or in the marketplace, and he would sneeze. Hachu, yes. And his soul would leave his body through his nostrils. Genesis 2:7. The way the soul entered the body is the way it would exit. And the Lord God formed man of dust from the ground, and he breathed into his nostrils the soul of life, and man became a living soul. We know that sneezes can travel anywhere between 35 to 100 miles per hour as they violently exit your face. Hachoo, boom. It's all over the place, right? And if you're calling the earlier Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer teachings, specifically how Adam got his soul, the text says that it was actually thrown with force into him, boom, aggressively, because the neshama is a spiritual energy directly coming from God himself and, to grant cognitive life. This neshama did not want to separate from its source, the creator. So God had to actually throw it from him into Adam, and now it's trapped in our physical bodies, if you will. I am, of course, oversimplifying this extraordinary event of both life and death, but you get the idea. So, yes, once upon a time, when a person would sneeze, that would be the end of it. That's how they would die. Until Jacob, our father, came along and asked for mercy regarding this. Meaning, this was not merciful at all. Like we just read, a person could be walking along the way or having dinner or doing whatever, sneeze, and drop dead. One sneeze and you're out. Meaning, there were no allergies, and people didn't just have sneezing attacks or even colds or any kind of sickness, nothing. They would just simply, boom, die. And before Abraham and Isaac, they would get old, but not grow old, like we discussed. So, a 250-year-old dude could be riding his donkey, sneeze, and that would be the end of it. So when Jacob asked God to change this reality of the world, and our text referring to this change being merciful, it is a mercy what he asked for. What did he mean by this? If you knew that you were going to die, right? If you have some sort of warning, and I'm sure we've heard this saying before, you need to get your affairs in order, right? You always watch those hospital shows, a person gets like some terminal something. I don't know how to say this, you got this and this long live, maybe you should get your affairs in order. So you have a warning of when it is going to happen. Like we said, Abraham brought about seva, the distinction of age. Isaac added before death that there should be some sort of affliction coming with age. In other words, aches and pains that come with that. And so Abraham became old overnight. Isaac started losing his eyesight and everything. And now Jacob, he asked specifically for what? Sickness. In other words, to know exactly when a person is going out. That's why this is merciful. So what does this actually mean in practical terms? The last will and testament. That's what this means. Jacob said before the Holy One, blessed be he, Master of all the worlds, do not take my nephesh, my life, from before me, before I command my sons and the members of my household. And God obliged his request, as said in Genesis 48:1. Now it came to pass after these incidents that it was said to Joseph, behold, your father is ill. What? This had never happened. This is the only time that this is written over here up until this point, right? Afterwards, we're going to see it in the future, but still. So he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. So while most of the world takes care of this before the individual passes, as they start thinking of these things in the later years of life, perhaps. This is not exactly what we're talking about here. A will that one would leave with instruction for their loved ones to execute in Hebrew is called a tzava'ah. This comes from the word letzavot, to command, or mitzvah. You see what I'm saying? It's all, the Hebrew language is incredible. So this is called a tzava'ah, the last command, if you will, leaving instructions. The great sages who are in the Mishnah and the Talmud have received this consideration, which is a tremendous act of kindness and mercy from God by the merit and request of Jacob. No more would a holy person just expire. As we learned from Abraham, God implemented clear signs of aging, like we said. As we learned from Isaac, God implemented physical ailments that came with the aging. And as we are learning now from Jacob, as it is said in Bereshit Rabbah 65:9, Jacob demanded illness. He said before him, Master of the universe, a person dies without illness and does not settle matters between his children. When he is ill for 2 or 3 days, he settles matters between his children. In other words, he goes, okay, clear sign, I'm on my way out. The Holy One, blessed be he, said to him, as you live, you have demanded a good thing, and it will begin with you. One said to Joseph, behold, your father is ill. Genesis 48:1, right? All the righteous from that day forth were given the opportunity upon their deathbed to speak clearly with their children and with their students. The uniqueness of this time that has been granted by God is such that the rabbi has one foot in this world. Again, this is not everybody. Obviously, we've all had loved ones who are on their deathbed. You go visit them in the hospital or hospice, and you don't know when it's going to happen, but any day now, right? Often they could be in a coma or something, so they can't actually speak. Sometimes it's, kind of gibberish, but they see things that we cannot see, right? But as far as the sages in the Talmud, I'm going to give you some incredible examples over here, okay? They have one foot in this world and one foot in the world to come. This is God's mercy. So he gives his loved ones around him, the person who's about to expire, gives his loved ones around him insight into hidden matters that cannot be attained in this life. But since he is on his way there, and if the relevant questions are answered, great secrets can be revealed. In fact, we also saw this with Moses. Moses elevated to the 50th level. He was on there to begin with, but he lost it with the golden calf because of his nation, the Arab Rab, that came out. But then right before his death, that's when you have Ha'azinu v'zot ha'bracha, those 2 Torah portions, the last 2. Ha'azinu is not to be translated. Ha'azinu is written in a very, very specific way in the Torah, and Ha'azinu is matters of the world to come. It's kind of like a bridge over there. So, in any case, so that's just one thing off, but I have other things written down here. All right? So, he gives insight to those around him, right? Big secrets are about to be revealed. Sometimes these great secrets are so simple because you're like, oh, tell me the secrets of the universe. It's like, okay, do 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the secrets of the universe? Yes, that's exactly how simple this is. Just like the instructions that we receive from our teachers throughout our lives. So we believe them, right? Because it comes at that point in that time. But as a holy person is expiring, that faith turns then into knowledge. Because they actually see, they now know what we believe. So we believe them, therefore it becomes knowledge for us. In fact, there's another book by Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanus. We're learning Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer the Great. He actually has a book called Tzava'at Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, the will and testament, the last will and testament of Rabbi Eliezer the Great. I'm actually considering going to this once we're done with Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. Remember, we're in chapter 52. 54 is the last chapter. So it's still going to take a bunch of weeks, maybe a few more months, but that's it. I remember when I started Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer and I saw how long it could be, I'm like, let's hope that Mashiach will come before I'm done with this. Otherwise, I got to now come up with something new. So, hey, it might not be that far off. Okay, anyway, so this is called the last will and testament of Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol. And like I said, we'll see what happens when I'm done with this, if I'm going to get into that. Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol ben Horkanus, as we said, he was the student of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. And the teacher Rabbi Eliezer Gadol was the teacher of Rabbi Akiva. And a few words of the event of his death are mentioned in Masechet Brachot 28b. When Rabbi Eliezer fell ill, his students entered to visit him. They said to him, "Teach us paths of life, guidelines by which to live, and we will thereby merit the life of the world to come." Now again, what? He wasn't there their whole lives to teach them? Yes, but now what you say now, again, we're talking from knowledge, not through faith, which is so much more powerful. Would you like to know how to merit the life of the world to come? And so you know there are 3 levels of the world to come. The world to come is not necessarily the spirit world, if you will. It's what comes next. Okay, so there's 3 levels to this. Here he's saying, the student said, and we will thereby merit the life of the world to come. Chaye olam haba. So like I said, 3 levels. The first one, the lowest, is called chelek olam haba, a piece of the world to come. The second is called ben olam haba, a son of the world to come. And the highest level is called chaye olam haba, the life of the world to come. That is the highest of all the high levels, reserved to the most righteous of people, and that is what Rabbi Eliezer's students asked of him. So normally, for instance, I'll just give you an example. Every day after, right before we finish davening in the morning, we read a couple of halachot, because it says that if you learn more than 1 halacha a day, you become ben olam haba. So you're like in the middle level of the world to come. And that's why we start learning at least 2 halachot every single day to become ben olam haba. Chaye olam haba is reserved for the Hasidim, for those that died on Kiddush Hashem, those that gave their lives consciously, made an actual choice. I'm not talking about, again, there's a very big difference, and it's questionable. If someone is murdered because they're a Jew, are they on the same level who someone was given a choice to transgress the mitzvot in the Torah that should not be transgressed and said, kill me, take my life? Are they on the same level? Logically speaking, they're not on the same level. So also practically, they're not on the same level. But in any case, how does a person get to merit something like that, to get to the point where they're considered part of Chaye Olam Haba, the life of the world to come? Like we said, that's the highest of high levels. So would you like to know the grand revelations as how to attain such a place? Because I'm going to tell you that now. You will be disappointed only because you already know about all these answers. But because of the time and the source, now you should probably focus on that which you already know. Nevertheless, these 4 points will grant you the life in the world to come, the highest of the high levels of the world to come. He said to them, Rabbi Eliezer Gadol, our guy, he said to his students, and I'll explain each point in short. He gives them 4 points. 1, be vigilant in the honor of your counterparts. What? Okay. We are commanded to love our fellow, right? This is a positive command. And also not to hate our fellow. This is a negative command, right? Right? Positive and negative. Sababa. But it is not a direct command to honor our fellow. Nowhere does it say we have to honor our fellow. But that does not mean that we should not do it. That goes above and beyond. That is what we call chasidut, chasidim. You're doing your bare minimum. Sure, you could check the box, but so what? To go above and beyond and for the right reasons, that's what he's talking about. We're talking about, you want the highest level in Chaye Olam Haba, right? That's what we're talking about over here, okay? So it's not a direct command to honor our fellow, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. Because we've learned from the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva who died during the counting of the Omer, they were taken not because they dishonored or disrespected their counterparts, but because they did not show them honor. Why? Because these great tzaddikim should have absolutely known better. Everybody is held to the standard of the neshama that has been given to them. If we remember that God made our fellow just as he did us, not what I'm better than you because I know more Torah than you, I'm better than you because I got a chidush. I'm not better than anybody. That's the point that we need to remember here. If you've been given more, that's because you have a greater responsibility. So, me and him and you, we all come from the same stuff, from the same place, and everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, their natural gifts, and plenty of shortcomings. Waking us up to the fact that each and every person is a divine spark of the Creator, we will look at humanity very different than how we do today. Okay? This is what Abraham saw. He saw God in every man, and his mission was to help the world realize that. So in a nutshell, that's what it means to be vigilant in the honor of your counterparts. You could take it, if I'm a great sage, the other sages. If I'm just a Joe Schmo, all the other Joe Schmoes. You understand? Nobody is better than anybody over here. I have my job, that's why I'm here. You have your job, that's why you're there, right? On a higher level than this, obviously, because you have all of humanity over there, then you have Moses and the children of Israel. What was the ma'alah, the merit, the greatness of Moses? Is that his greatness was his humility, right? Is because he saw that all the power and the authority that God gave him was exactly that. God gave this to me. And he thought, honestly, if God gave the power of Moses to anyone else here from Israel, they would have all been greater than me. That's why I saw everything that he has. This was an absolute gift, and he didn't hold that over it. Do you know who I am? I'm Moses. You know me, right? Look at the staff that I got and look at the things that, no way. He never pulled rank on anybody over there. Okay? So that's the difference. And based on that, the higher you go, the lower you are, the higher you go. Okay, you get this idea. Be vigilant in the honor of your counterparts. Honoring them. Recognize you're a divine spark, they're a divine spark. Okay, that's 1. 2. And prevent your children from logic. Now, again, we're just talking about, this is a bad translation, but this does not mean logic in terms of common sense, as today in the world they don't even know the meaning, but rather what the Greeks, which, by the way, today is the modern world, what the modern world determines that is right and wrong, moral and immoral. We have a standard for right and wrong, holy and unholy, good and evil. And it's very little to do with what Western society is promoting in the world today. Look, what did I just hear? Oh yes, you know what I'm talking about. There was no client list. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, and where did this come from? From the side of the right, of the man with the golden hair. You see what I'm saying? The ones that you trust in. I assume the people that are watching this, right? You know for a fact they're lying to you right now. What are you going to do about that? Nothing. Because you want to put your faith in them instead of in God, you will believe this blatant-faced lie. Therefore, now we already know for a fact. I mean, we've just known it all along, but here's just another example that I just heard today. That, again, there is no justice, and that is one of the 7 Noahide laws, to establish courts of righteousness for yourself. But if there's no justice, guess what's going to happen in the world right now? Because this is the Western world, this is Edom, this is Rome, right? You are going to see crazy natural disasters coming. Why? Because God handles the nations through the aspect of Hateva, which is the numerical value of Elohim. God handles Israel through the nations. So, expect plenty of natural disasters as justice is being corrupted even more so, and now it's openly in your face and no one is questioning it. So, again, this is just, okay, that's what this means. So, wait for it. In any case. Okay, so this is the West, what the West is promoting as logic and common sense today. So I can't stand whenever I hear Jews use the terms as Judeo-Christian values. It's an oxymoron. It makes no sense. By default, Christianity and anything that comes of it is idolatry. You can't mix the two. You go, Judeo-Christian values. We believe in one God. They believe in not, basically, and everything that we've learned about on this channel before. which is why those who come out of the cult must throw away all their Bibles, right? Even if it has the Old Testament in it, even with Hebrew. The English really doesn't matter, by the way. The reason for this is that anything from that side infects our writing, thereby making everything unholy. It doesn't matter, right? So in a nutshell, and prevent your children from logic means not to let your kids get consumed by the messed up logic of the world, including the idolatrous religions of the world. They're all one and the same. They're just, oh, it's this, so it can't be that. Wrong. If you actually go back and you see where everything came from, it's exactly from the same thing. Greece became Rome, became the Roman Catholic Church, became Christianity, as you get it, okay? It's all from the same root. 3. And place your children while they're still young. It says between the knees of Torah scholars. Let them scurry around the Batei Midrash. Let them consume the words of wisdom that comes in over there. From a young age, let them learn from those who have great understanding in the Torah, to make sure they have a good foundation when they grow up, to strengthen their faith and gain knowledge of the Torah with the Torah's morals and ethics, not from the Western world, right? And especially how to implement that into day-to-day life, which we have, Pirkei Avot, right? Instead of dumping the kids in a daycare where the background noise will either be kids or TV or whatever agenda is playing over there at the time. If you leave them within the vicinity of Torah giants, the background noise that which they will passively soak in will benefit them far beyond anything else in the world. Make that default position words of Torah. See what I'm saying? Okay. And number 4. And when you pray, which hopefully we all do, but when you pray, know before whom you stand. Now, we've learned this many times here, and also as well in the group. Mishnah Avot 3:1 says, here's another thing from Pirkei Avot. Akabia ben Mahalalel said, mark well 3 things, and you will not come into the power of sin. 1, know from where you come. 2, and where you are going. And 3, and before who you are destined to give an account and reckoning. From where do you come from? From a putrid drop. Don't get all high and mighty. And where are you going? To a place of dust, of worm, and of maggot. Don't get all high and mighty. Before whom you are destined to give an account and reckoning, before the King of Kings, Melech Malchei HaMelachim, the Holy One, blessed be He. And where do we think our sages got this from? What, they made it up? Of course not. Anyone who says that is a fool, and plenty do. They got it from King David himself, right? And what? King David was a Torah scholar. We know this. When he wasn't out fighting battles, he was studying Torah all day. He was a Talmid Chacham. King David said it himself in Psalm 16:8. I have placed the Lord before me always, wherever I go, wherever I turn, whatever I think, whatever I do. Because he is at my right hand, I will not falter. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid ki mimini balemot. This is what we always have in front of the ark in the synagogues. Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid, to remind us that when we pray to, again, depending where you are on Temple Mount, that direction that God is ever present before us all the time, especially when we pray according to Rabbi Eliezer over here. David lived like this, but we are not expected to live on that high of a standard, obviously. As Rabbi Eliezer told his students, we're not expected to be a David, okay? But he told his students, when you pray, at least when you pray. So, obviously be conscious of God all the time. But at least when you pray, when you're getting that face to face, if you will, with God, make sure that you are ever present. And when you pray, know before whom you stand. You have the attention of the Creator of the universe. In a Beit Mikdash Me'at, a synagogue is called a small temple. Make sure you come clean and weigh every word, otherwise there will be consequences. Our sages say that before you even utter your first word in prayer, you have to sit for an hour in silence meditating. Today, almost nobody does that. I do happen to know, single individuals who do this. But again, those are the guys that actually stay up all night learning Torah. They don't work during the day. They get supported. But again, if a person who lives like that and they dedicate their entire lives to this, you better believe I'm going to support them. You understand? So we still need these individuals. But who today is expected to sit an hour before prayer to just focus and meditate to come correct before God? We don't have time to do this. The way the Western world is set up is not allowing us to do so. Even the way, I mentioned this before, the daylight savings time, it messes with the spiritual clock. Why? How could it be that the sages learned all night? How could it be? When did they go to work? And we know that all the sages in the Talmud, they had day jobs. All of them. Because you have to. It's part of what they said. You need to work and you need to learn Torah. You're not going to just sit there unless you're like really something special, which today, again, you could count them on one hand how many in this generation there are. So why is daylight savings time messing you up? Because now the sun sets at 8:30, 9 o'clock instead of at 5:30, 6 o'clock. If it sets at 5:30, 6 o'clock, you say Mariv, you eat dinner, you go to sleep for 6 hours, you wake up at 12:30, which is chatzot, which is that's the most holiest time of day. They wake up, they do a tikkun chatzot, and guess what? They start learning Torah until shacharit. So they're up from 12:30 all the way around for 18 hours until 6:30, and so they sleep from 6:30 to 12:30. You see? But today the whole thing is messed up. So you can't wake up and go to sleep at that time. You end up going to sleep late. You end up waking up later, and they're like, "Oh, look, because it helps you." No, it does not. Absolutely, it does not. And people sleep less. And when people sleep less, people get sick. This whole thing is a Western invention, and it helps nothing for nobody. But again, people are like, yeah, longer days. It's the same 24 hours. Don't you see what they're doing? Okay. Do not teach your kids logic of the West. Here you go. All right. So as he says, for doing these 4 things, you will merit the life of the world to come. Do we remember again? Again, just remember this. Write this down. 1, be vigilant in the honor of your counterparts. 2, prevent your children from the logic of the world, of the West, as we see clearly how corrupt it is. 3, make sure that they are influenced by Torah scholars from a young age. And 4, when you pray, know before who you stand. Do this, you're good to go. So says Rabbi Eliezer Hagadol. Okay. But it doesn't end there. These, of course, were practical lessons, what he gave them, based on morality and ethics from the Torah. What about Rabbi Eliezer's teacher, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai? Now, again, Rabbi Eliezer gave this to them on his deathbed. I have an entire book of all this wisdom, but these are the 4 things that were mentioned in the Talmud, that the 4 points for us to remember and for his students to receive. Now we're going to talk about his teacher, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Okay? The first rabbi to be given the title Rabban, okay, as he was placed at the head of the sages of his time. He personally saved many Jews from certain death before Rome destroyed Jerusalem. He says, give me Yavne and his sages. So he got the sages out of Jerusalem because Jerusalem was already lost, right? And he was a direct descendant from the line of David himself. We continue in Brachot 28a. When Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai falling ill, his students entered to visit him. When he saw them, he began to cry. His students said to him, Lamp of Israel, light of Israel, the right pillar, the mighty hammer, the man whose life work is the foundation of the future of the Jewish people. For what reason are you crying, Rabbi, right? With a life as complete as yours, why are you upset? This man, quite literally, saved the sages and the Torah from Israel, okay? This is merits beyond what we can fathom. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. His house of study is actually still in the old city of Jerusalem. I'm going to try and get a class from there, but I'll see, because it's difficult. This is where all these sages learned. They restored it after the destruction. He said to them, I cry in fear of heavenly judgment, as the judgment of the heavenly court is unlike the judgment of man. If they were leading me before flesh and blood king or a judge, right, whose life is temporal, who is here today and in the grave tomorrow. If he is angry with me, his anger is not eternal, because he's a man. And even if he holds it his entire life, when he dies, there goes the anger against me, right? And consequently, his punishment is not eternal. If he incarcerates me, his incarceration is not an eternal incarceration, just as long as either he or I live, right? If he kills me, his killing is not for eternity. Moreover, I am able to appease him with words and even bribe him with money. Not that he would ever do so, but that's the point. The point is to make a distinction between man and God, which apparently today in the world we still need to do, right? Or even bribe him with money. I could give explanations. I could give excuses. I could play the system like a sharp-tongued defense attorney today in the criminal world. Look at all the people that are coming in, and we know they're guilty of sin and yet walking free because they find loopholes in the system. Is that justice? There's no justice about it. Well, they're going according to the letter of the law. There's also the spirit of the law, and then clearly, when the law is broken, why do we even bother? They're still putting up a facade, a charade, and we are still actually buying into it like there is some sort of law and order in this world. It's one big joke. The sooner you wake up to this, really, the better. And then you will see, really, down to the bottom line, we have no one to rely upon, only on our Father in heaven. No one and nothing. I kid you not. Again, existential crises all around. You get an existential crisis, and you get regardless of what religion you're coming from, when you will see how corrupt every aspect of this world is, start preparing yourself now. All right. Even if I bribe him with money, and even so I would cry when standing before royal judgment. Now, they are leading me before the supreme King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, who lives and endures forever and all time. He understands who is about to judge him. You understand? This is a whole nother level over here. This is not it. This is a different reality, existence. If he is angry with me, his anger is eternal. If he incarcerates me, his incarceration is an eternal incarceration. We're not breaking down these details right now. Obviously, every case within itself, he's making a point to his students. And if he kills me, his killing is for eternity. I am unable to appease him with words and bribe him with money. There's nothing that I could say. There's no excuses, right? That's why I have to pay attention. We're all going to stand and give an account, give judgment. That person convinced me to do it. That person made me do it. That person is not going to be standing there with you. You are going to have to answer for what you did. No lies, only truth. Remember this. Okay. I'm unable to appease him with words and bribe him with money. Now here's the kicker. Listen to his words. Moreover, he's saying this on his deathbed, so he sees the beyond. But I have two paths before me, one of the Garden of Eden and one of Gehennom. And he, the great sage, I do not know which one they are leading me. And will I not cry? This man is a tzaddik yesod olam, a pillar of the earth, by whose merit the world stood. We're here today because of him. He saved the Torah. He saved the Jewish people. He taught Torah. He stood against our adversaries. And he didn't know where they were taking him. If a man of his status does not know what will become of him in the moment of truth, what can we say of ourselves who do not come close to the dust beneath his feet? You see where I'm going with this? This is the perspective of a righteous person on their deathbed as they see beyond the veil. And so naturally, before he left this world, his students asked him for a blessing. His students said to him, "Our teacher, bless us." He said to them, "May it be his will." Listen now, just listen. "May it be his will that the fear of heaven shall be upon you like the fear of flesh and blood." His students were puzzled and said, "To that point and not beyond, should one fear God more?" He said to them, "What would that person achieve? How would that person achieve this level of fear? Know that when one commits a transgression, he says to himself, I hope that no man will see me. If one is as concerned about avoiding shame before God as he is before man, he will never sin. Right? Correct? Okay. Do you see the life lesson over here? That's why we've asked this question before. Is it worse if a person steals something during the day in front of everybody to see, or if he does it sneaky at night? Sneaky at night, because he's showing, I'm afraid of man, but not of God. You see? Okay. Very similar to what Rabbi Eliezer said, know before whom you stand. If you know this, you will never sin. Think about it. Let's say there's a career criminal out there. If he's got his parole officer, a bunch of feds or whatever, cops all around him, assuming they're clean, whatever, you get the idea, all around him 24/7 within his vicinity all the time, that they could smack him in the back of his head with handcuffs over there, do something wrong and you're done. He will never sin. He will never do anything wrong. Correct? Okay. I know, just like you know, people who go out of their way to be liars and sneaky and all these things, that there's no way that they would be busted by man. And yet they're showing they have no fear of God. These people, I almost look forward to, it's like I have the only, like so much so I want to see that justice, but because I have an idea, I almost feel sorry for them. Almost. I feel sorry for those who, what they do does not cause others to sin. Those that cause others to sin, there's no coming back from that, especially since they know. And I know those that know. Anyway, okay. And at the time of his death, immediately beforehand, he said to them, remove the vessels from the house and take them outside due to the ritual impurity that will be imparted by my corpse, which they would otherwise contract. You see, in other words, he saw that they were coming for him. And at this point, he knew where he was going to be taken. So he commanded them regarding the halacha, right? Halacha, halicha, the walk, the way of God, a true teacher till his very last breath. And his very last words were, and prepare a chair for Hezekiah, the king of Judea, who is coming from the upper world to accompany me, right? Who is King Hezekiah? King Hezekiah, who had destroyed all the idols and removed idolatry from Judea, brought everyone back to tshuva, instilled Torah learning in the land, fortified the city, redirected the water, and trusted in God completely. Also, he was supposed to be the Messiah, son of David, in his generation. But this is what Messiah is actually going to do. And he was also a direct ancestor of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, as we said, from the line of David. So if the king of Judea, son of David, with a spark of Mashiach is coming to get him at that moment right before he died, that's where he knew he was going to the Garden of Eden and not to Gehinnom. And only then did he know. So who are we that we think that we're sure we know where we're going? Do we understand now that what Jacob was asking for was considered such an incredible mercy from God? Otherwise, we would not get all this wisdom over here. The righteous are given permission to impart information from the spiritual world upon their deathbed. So all these things, these great revelations, these are things that we already know. But because of who gave it and at the time that it was given, that's how that turns our faith into knowledge. That should solidify it. Take this to heart, which is what Jacob wanted to do. But the specific request was not granted to him. As we can read in Genesis 49:1, Jacob called for his sons and said, gather and I will tell you what will happen to you at the end of days. Because he saw it clearly. He saw it till the end of the world. He goes, kids, daddy needs to tell you something right now. And obviously, it was not permitted to him. That was removed from him. So he gave them the blessings, but not the actual what's going to go down. As we've learned, he saw the exact time and date and Messiah, who it is, where he's come from, and what would become of us. But it was not time for such a revelation. Now, however, we're getting very close. So we can see by his words and the words of Daniel and everything else kind of being put together through the process of elimination, what is left. And so again, When Jacob said before the Holy One, blessed be he, master of all the worlds, do not take my life from me, before I command my sons and the members of my household, and God obliged his request, as said in Genesis 48:1. Now it came to pass after these incidents that it was said to Joseph, behold, your father is ill. And all the kings of the earth had heard of these things, and they wondered that nothing like this had ever happened from the day that the heaven and the earth were created. Remember how this all began? With the sneeze. And our text continues and says, and therefore when a man sneezes, he must say, Chaim, life, that this moment of death turned into light. And some of the Sfardis, they say, he's like, Chaim, I'm like, huh? Gesundheit, no, okay. But I mean, Gesundheit, it probably means life in Yiddish or something. Anyway, Chaim, right? Because he turned this moment of death into light. As said in Job 41:10, his sneezes flash forth light, and his eyes are like the rays of dawn. That's why our sages say that if a man sneezes when he is sick today, it's a good sign, because instead of death, he receives life, thereby giving us the opportunity to get to grow up, to grow old, to gain experience and wisdom, command our children and our students, get our affairs in order, take a look behind the veil and leave behind a sort of deathbed confession, which in certain instances even can hold up in modern day court, as corrupted as it is. And so once again, this great mercy that humanity has received is thanks to Jacob our father, when he said, before the Holy One, blessed be he, master of all the world, do not take my life from before me, before I command my sons and the members of my household. And God obliged his request. And that's the fourth wonder, and that's our class for today. As always, thank you for joining me. Please continue to pray for Israel. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and have a Shabbat Shalom. Bye.